want to speak to you about something that is as old as humanity itself, yet as relevant as the air we breathe. It is a force that has shaped history, torn apart families, and left scars on the collective psyche of our species. I am talking about cruelty, the deliberate infliction of pain, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, on another living being. But this speech is not just about the harm cruelty causes to its victims. It is about the cost it exacts on the soul of the perpetrator. It is about how cruelty, in its many forms, destroys not only the lives of others, but also the very essence of who we are. Cruelty is not merely an act. It is a state of being. It is a choice to prioritize one's own desires, fears, or insecurities over the well-being of another. It is a manifestation of the darkest corners of the human psyche, where empathy is silenced and malice takes root. But what makes cruelty so insidious is that it does not end with the act itself. It lingers like a poison in the hearts and minds of those who commit it. It eats away at their humanity, leaving behind a hollow shell of what once was. When we engage in cruelty, we are not just harming others, we are harming ourselves. Every act of unkindness, every word spoken in anger, every moment of indifference to the suffering of others chips away at our moral foundation. It erodes our capacity for empathy, that essential quality that allows us to connect with others, to feel their joy and their pain. Without empathy, we become isolated, trapped in a prison of our own making, where the only company we have is our own bitterness and resentment. The psychological toll of cruelty is immense. It breeds guilt, shame, and self-loathing, emotions that can fester and grow, consuming us from within. We may try to bury these feelings to justify our actions, but they have a way of resurfacing, often in the form of anxiety, depression, or even a complete breakdown of our sense of self. The soul cannot thrive in an environment of malice. It withers like a plant deprived of sunlight until there is nothing left but darkness. But the cost of cruelty is not limited to the individual. It has a ripple effect, spreading outward like a stone dropped into a still pond. It poisons relationships, turning love into hatred, trust into suspicion. It tears apart communities, creating divisions where there should be unity. And on a larger scale, it shapes societies, fostering cultures of fear, oppression, and mistrust. Cruelty is not just a personal failing, it is a societal one, and its consequences are felt by all. Yet, even in the face of such destruction, there is hope. For just as cruelty has the power to destroy, so too does kindness have the power to heal. It is never too late to choose a different path, to turn away from the darkness and step into the light. Redemption is possible, but it requires courage and humility. It requires us to confront the pain we have caused, to take responsibility for our actions, and to make amends wherever possible. It requires us to rebuild our capacity for empathy, to open our hearts to the suffering of others, and to strive every day to be better than we were before. The cost of cruelty is high, but the price of redemption is higher still. It demands everything we have, but in return it offers us something priceless. The chance to reclaim our humanity, to heal our souls, and to create a world where cruelty has no place. So let us choose kindness, let us choose empathy, let us choose to be the light in the darkness, for in doing so we not only save others, but also ourselves. Thank you. A deliberate choice to inflict suffering, often as a means of asserting power or masking one's own insecurities. But what makes cruelty so destructive is not just the harm it causes to the victim, but the damage it inflicts on the perpetrator. When we engage in cruelty, we fracture our own moral integrity. We betray the better parts of ourselves, the parts that seek connection, compassion, and understanding. Cruelty is a reflection of inner turmoil. It is often a symptom of unaddressed pain, a way of externalizing the suffering we feel inside. But this externalization comes at a cost. Every act of cruelty hardens the heart, making it harder to access the softer, more vulnerable parts of ourselves, Over time, this hardening can lead to a profound sense of isolation. We become trapped in a cycle of bitterness and resentment, unable to break free from the very pain we are trying to escape. Moreover, cruelty is self-perpetuating. It creates a feedback loop where the more we engage in it, the more we justify it. We convince ourselves that the world is a harsh, unforgiving place, and that cruelty is simply a means of survival. But this is a lie. The truth is that cruelty does not protect us. It imprisons us. It locks us in a cage of our own making, where the only company we have is our own anger and despair. The soul cannot thrive in an environment of malice. It withers under the weight of cruelty, losing its capacity for joy, love, and connection. To be cruel is to betray not only others, but also ourselves. It is to sacrifice our humanity on the altar of our own pain. And yet, even in the face of such destruction, there is hope. For the soul is resilient, and it is never too late to choose a different path. The erosion of empathy is the glue that holds humanity together. It is the ability to see ourselves in others, to feel their joy and their pain as if it were our own. Without empathy, we are lost, adrift in a sea of isolation and despair. And yet, cruelty erodes empathy, slowly but surely, until there is nothing left but a hollow shell of what once was. When we engage in cruelty, we are not just harming others, we are harming ourselves. Every act of unkindness, every word spoken in anger, every moment of indifference to the suffering of others chips away at our capacity for empathy. It hardens the heart, making it harder to connect with others on a human level. Over time, this erosion of empathy isolates us, leaving us trapped in a cycle of bitterness and resentment. The loss of empathy is not just a personal tragedy, it is a societal one. Without empathy, we cannot build meaningful relationships, foster trust, or create a sense of community. We become disconnected not only from others, but also from ourselves. We lose sight of what it means to be human, to care for one another, to share in the joys and sorrows of life. The erosion of empathy is a gradual process, but its effects are profound. It begins with small acts of unkindness, with moments of indifference or neglect. But over time, these small acts accumulate until empathy is all but gone. And when empathy is gone, what is left? Only a world of pain and suffering where cruelty reigns supreme. But there is hope. Empathy, though fragile, is not easily destroyed. It can be nurtured, cultivated, and restored. It begins with a choice, a decision to see the humanity in others, to feel their pain and to act with kindness and compassion. It begins with a commitment to break the cycle of cruelty, to choose empathy over indifference, and to build a world where empathy is valued above all else. The cost of cruelty is high, but the price of empathy is higher still. It demands everything we have, but in return it offers us something priceless: the chance to reclaim our humanity, to heal our souls, and to create a world where cruelty has no place. The psychological toll cruelty is not just a moral failing, it is a psychological burden that weighs heavily on the soul. When we engage in acts of cruelty, whether consciously or unconsciously, we inflict damage not only on others but also on ourselves. The psychological toll of cruelty is immense, manifesting in feelings of guilt, shame, and self-loathing. These emotions, if left unaddressed, can fester and grow, consuming us from within. Guilt reminds us of the harm we have caused. Shame makes us question our worth, and self-loathing erodes our sense of identity. Together, they create a toxic inner environment where the soul cannot thrive. The mind is a complex and delicate system, and cruelty disrupts its balance. It creates cognitive dissonance, a state of mental conflict where our actions contradict our values. This dissonance is deeply uncomfortable, and to resolve it, we often resort to justification or denial. We tell ourselves that the victim deserved it, that cruelty is necessary, or that our actions were insignificant. But these rationalizations only deepen the wound. They distance us from our true selves, leaving us fragmented and disconnected. Over time, this fragmentation can lead to anxiety, depression, or even a complete breakdown of our mental health. Cruelty also affects our relationships with others. It breeds mistrust and resentment, making it difficult to form meaningful connections. When we hurt others, we create barriers between ourselves and the world. These barriers isolate us, leaving us trapped in a cycle of loneliness and despair. The soul craves connection, but cruelty destroys the very bridges that allow us to connect with others. It leaves us stranded, adrift in a sea of our own making. But perhaps the most devastating aspect of cruelty is its impact on our sense of self. The soul is not indestructible. It can be wounded, broken, and even destroyed. Cruelty chips away at our humanity, leaving behind a hollow shell of what once was. It robs us of our capacity for joy, love, and compassion, replacing them with bitterness and despair. The psychological toll of cruelty is not just a personal tragedy, it is a spiritual one. It is the loss of our very essence, the part of us that makes us human. Yet, even in the face of such destruction, there is hope. The soul is resilient, and it is never too late to begin the process of healing. It begins with self-reflection, with a willingness to confront the pain we have caused and to take responsibility for our actions. It requires us to seek forgiveness, not only from others but also from ourselves. And it demands that we commit to change, to choose kindness over cruelty, and to rebuild the bridges that connect us to the world. The ripple effect cruelty is not an isolated act. It is a stone dropped into a still pond, creating ripples that spread far beyond the initial impact. The harm caused by cruelty extends beyond the immediate victim, affecting the perpetrator, the witnesses, and even society as a whole. It poisons relationships, fosters mistrust, and creates a culture of fear and oppression. The ripple effect of cruelty is a reminder that our actions have consequences, not only for ourselves, but also for the world around us. When we engage in cruelty, we set off a chain reaction. The victim suffers, but so too do those who witness the act. They may feel anger, fear, or helplessness, emotions that can linger long after the act itself. These emotions can shape their behavior, leading them to act out in ways they might not otherwise. In this way, cruelty spreads, infecting everyone it touches and perpetuating a cycle of harm. The ripple effect of cruelty is not limited to individuals. It also affects communities and societies. Cruelty breeds division, creating an us versus them mentality that undermines social cohesion. It fosters a culture of fear where people are afraid to speak out or stand up for what is right. And it normalizes harmful behavior, making it easier for others to justify their own acts of cruelty. Over time, this normalization can lead to systemic oppression, where cruelty becomes embedded in the very fabric of society. But the ripple effect of cruelty is not inevitable. Just as cruelty spreads, so too can kindness. Every act of compassion, every moment of empathy creates ripples of its own. These ripples can counteract the effects of cruelty, fostering connection, trust, and understanding. They remind us that we are not powerless, that we have the ability to shape the world around us through our actions. The challenge lies in breaking the cycle of cruelty. It requires us to be mindful of our actions, to consider their impact on others, and to choose kindness whenever possible. It demands that we stand up against cruelty, even when it is difficult or uncomfortable. And it calls on us to create a culture of empathy where cruelty has no place and kindness is valued above all else. The path to redemption. The cost of cruelty is high, but the price of redemption is higher still. It demands everything we have, but in return it offers us something priceless. The chance to reclaim our humanity, to heal our souls, and to create a world where cruelty has no place. Redemption is not easy. It requires courage, humility, and a willingness to confront the pain we have caused. But it is possible, and it begins with a single choice, the choice to change. The path to redemption begins with self-reflection. It requires us to look inward, to confront the darkness within ourselves, and to take responsibility for our actions. This process is painful, but it is necessary. It is only by facing our own cruelty that we can begin to heal the wounds we have inflicted on ourselves and others. Redemption also requires accountability. It demands that we acknowledge the harm we have caused and seek forgiveness from those we have hurt. This is not easy. It requires us to be vulnerable, to admit our mistakes, and to face the consequences of our actions. But it is a crucial step on the path to healing. Finally, redemption requires action. It is not enough to feel remorse. We must also commit to change. This means choosing kindness over cruelty, empathy over indifference, and compassion over malice. It means striving every day to be better than we were before. The path to redemption is not a straight line. It is a journey filled with setbacks and challenges. But it is a journey worth taking. For in choosing redemption, we not only heal ourselves, but also contribute to the healing of the world. We create ripples of kindness that counteract the effects of cruelty, fostering connection, trust, and understanding. The cost of cruelty is high, but the price of redemption is higher still. It demands everything we have, but in return it offers us something priceless, the chance to reclaim our humanity, to heal our souls, and to create a world where cruelty has no place. Let us choose redemption. Let us choose kindness. Let us choose to be the light in the darkness.